Hello, my name is Gareth, and my family and I are members at White Abbey Presbyterian Church, and I'm an electronic engineer. Now, you might say, isn't being an engineer a scientific kind of work? And how can you be scientific and at the same time be a Christian? Do you believe in God and that kind of thing? Aren't science and faith incompatible? Well, I do. I do believe in God. And I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. In fact, I really believe the lot. Now, here's a way of looking at why I believe in 5 minutes. A first story. When I was about 4 years old and trying to make sense of the world, and having been told that the reason there is a world is that God made it, I asked my mum, "Mummy, where did God come from?" Well, she looked a bit put out, and she said that God didn't come from anywhere. He was always there. Now, I couldn't find the words to argue back, but it seemed to me that something was very puzzling about this idea. How could it be that God was always there? And it seemed to me that my mother didn't really know either. And you know what? I'm a lot older than she was then, and I still can't explain how that is. So, does that mean that we've fallen at the first hurdle? That people who believe in God can't even do the most basic thing of explaining how there is a God? But suppose there's another family, and this family believes that the physical universe is all there is and doesn't believe in God. And then suppose a child in this family, just as I did, is trying to make sense of the world. This mother tells her child that it all started from something, perhaps the Big Bang. So the child might say, "Mummy, where did the Big Bang come from?" And this mother will be just as stuck for a satisfactory answer as mine was. If the Big Bang is the first thing, or something else more fundamental was the cause of it, or if the universe was always there, whatever it is, there is no more fundamental cause prior to it to explain it. So, a basic question, whether we believe in God or we don't, is this: how is it that there is anything at all, any space, any time, any matter? And this, I think, is a mystery. I don't think anyone has an answer to it, or perhaps ever will. However, the universe began at the physical level, whether with a Big Bang singularity or with multiverses or whatever, and then the laws of physics that govern it. This appears to remain an open and interesting question in science. But however it began, seeing things through a Christian lens, I would suppose those laws of physics will have originated in the mind of God, and they continue to reside in the mind of God. And God will be the first cause of the universe and its physical origin, whenever it was. In Christian thinking, God continues from then on to sustain or maintain the whole creation, continually creating it, you might say. And equally, the whole universe operates and develops according to the laws of physics. There's no clash. It's just that behind the laws and behind the universe, God is there as the first cause. When we study science, we're studying the works of God. When we understand something in science, we're thinking God's thoughts after him. Or that's the Christian model anyway. So, is this a truce or a stalemate? Christians can't explain where God came from, and secular materialists can't explain where the universe's physical cause came from. Well, I don't really think you can prove there is a God or there isn't in looking at the origins of the universe. But here's a way I look at this question, and it's from a different angle. So, in science, sometimes you must consider a theory to see how much it explains. Now, think of the existence of God as a theory, and the material-only universe as a different theory. And of course, I know there are other ways of looking at the world, usually variations of these. But for this discussion, let's just look at these two. Which of the two explains more things, has more explanatory power, or is more coherent with the world we live in? When it comes to explaining the physical universe, both theories, I think, fit. However, what about things that are not physical or scientific, but which are very important aspects of life? For example, and in my opinion, this is a very important example, is the value of people. That all people have a high intrinsic value and should be treated accordingly, regardless of who they are, their gender, ability, wealth, health, race, or anything else. This is an idea deep in our intuition, and we treat it as a fact or even an axiom. Where does this fit with the theories? If the universe started with material and nothing else, nothing transcendent, by definition, there are no values built into the universe, so to speak. And it follows then that people do not have an intrinsic value in any fundamental or final way. And truly believing this would logically lead you to a rather sad nihilistic place, rejecting all values. But in the theory or worldview that God created the material universe, he also created rationality, values, beauty, love, and morality, abstract things which our minds perceive. And since these came from God, these abstract things are real, fundamental, just as our intuition tells us. For me, believing in God lights up everything. It's a deeply satisfying worldview in which everything makes sense. For example, people and the natural world have real value and meaning because they come from God. My relationships are satisfying because they fulfill the nature that God gave us. Science shows a rational, ordered, consistent physical universe because a rational, orderly God is behind it. In other words, all the jigsaw pieces of life find a place in a coherent explanation. This argument isn't my only reason. When you come to faith and begin the Christian life, including prayer and worship, you begin to feel you've encountered someone, and this becomes part of your life. At least that's my experience. And this argument isn't a proof, of course. For these ultimate questions, I don't think that we can obtain proof. But however, since belief in God fits together and makes meaningful all these aspects of life, it seems to me much more likely to be true than a bare materialist version of the universe. And so it's a key reason why I believe God exists and have faith in God himself. Thank you.